When Arknights first launched, Lapland was the go-to guard thanks to her at the time huge multi-target damage output, big range and silencing talent. Paired with Chen, they were a match made in heaven for both standard and high-end content. Since then, there have been a lot of additions to the roster that perform better than Lapland. Torrance is the first good example that comes to mind. However, along the way we also got a new 5-star guard that isn't nearly as talked about, Ayerscarpe. Since he was in the Suzuran's solo banner, let's take a look at his kit. The tests were conducted with him being at E2 level 40, 100 trust with skills at level 7. His trait allows him to perform the aforementioned ranged attacks, but at 80% of his full attack power when not blocking. His talent increases the attack speed of himself and the allies placed in the 8 surrounding tiles by 8 to 10% at E2 depending on his potential level. Skill 1 makes his next attack deal damage equal to 140% of his attack power at skill level 7 and 160 at mastery 3, up to 3 targets. Additionally, it inflicts sluggish slow to all targets for 1 second, which means movement speed reduction of 80% and compatibility with Suzuran's talent. The skill costs 4 SP at level 7 and 3 SP with mastery 3. It offers consistent damage output with its low SP and Ayers' increased attack speed with a bit of crowd control thanks to slow, but also requires multiple enemies to shine. It's best suited for handling big waves of weaker enemies. Skill 2 expands his range and makes his attack deal arts damage. Additionally, he deals arts damage equal to 140% of his attack power at skill level 7 and 170% at mastery 3 to all enemies blocked by allies and himself in the 8 surrounding tiles. Those attacks are treated as melee, meaning no trait penalty. The SP cost is 53 with the duration of 21 seconds at skill level 7 and 50 SP and 25 seconds duration at mastery 3. This skill is rather complex. When Ayerscarpe is targeting 1 or 2 enemies, the damage output is not impressive. Things get better from 3 targets onwards, but at that point you either need to get more operators in his range or give him extra blocks with Nyan or Palace. The good thing is that only the operators have to be within those 8 surrounding tiles, meaning his range is quite big on the sides. One limitation to note is that this doesn't work on air enemies as they can't be blocked, so at most he will be hitting them with his arts attacks, and given that many drones have high resistance nowadays, the damage output is minuscule. So generally you will want to use this skill on the maps that primarily consist of ground enemies coming in big waves and that have multiple connected lanes. The SP cost is also undeniably high. Typically stages take roughly 2.5 to 3 minutes at 1 time speed, so the cost of 33 SP, which equates to 33 seconds, means you have to be careful when you activate it. Overall, both of these skills are good, but the requirements to make the second skill work well are very demanding and not so easily achievable with the current lineup of maps. Therefore, first skill is the preferred one. His trust farming potential is small as he needs more operators to work well. He can do 1/7 solo. Outside of this he is fine for early game trust farms, although not the most efficient ones. He has great synergy with the majority of the operators thanks to his talent, especially Ashe, since she can shoot more bullets within the enemy's stun duration, but there are also some exceptions. Platinum and Manticore need higher attack intervals to maximize their damage output, and Carnian's third skill charge is synced with her original damage interval, so with increased attack speed she misses the charge and therefore deals less damage. Chen's talent works well with his first skill as it charges per hit and it wouldn't trigger unless there is an enemy in the range. How is he for CC? Generally CC maps don't have high volumes of weaker enemies, so he won't have a chance to stretch his legs with the first skill. He can get a bit more mileage out of his second skill. With all that said, he will do a good job on lower risk and even push a bit beyond the minimum risk 18 for the main map and risk 8 for the daily maps, but he is unlikely to be the core of those runs. So is Ayerscarpe worth raising? If you have Thorns, that will most likely be your go-to. Otherwise your other options are Lapland or Arene. Ayerscarpe is more of a team player, underperforming against single targets, but scaling well against higher numbers. However, due to most maps favoring waves with smaller amounts of the enemies, Lapland has quite a bit of an advantage being more solo focused. However, he also offers better skills management compared to Lapland, whose skills activate automatically, and while this is not an issue for the first skill that has infinite duration, skill 2 can get easily wasted if it activates at the wrong time. Arene on the other hand falls somewhere in between the two, offering skill 2 with manual activation and extended range similar to Ayerscarpe that targets 2 enemies like Lapland. Of course, as a 4-star his damage output is lower, but at the same time he has the unique advantage of dealing extra damage to air targets, while also being cheaper to raise and easier to get potentials for, thanks to him being lower rarity. Still, Ayerscarpe's talent gives him a very useful niche, and combined with the first skill he offers solid support and crowd control in one. His skills don't scale particularly well with masteries, which can be both good and bad depending how you look at it. On one hand it means that you can save the resources, but on the other, if you do invest, the payoff is rather insignificant. This stands in stark contrast to Lapland, who pretty much needs mastery 3 on her second skill to be good. Moreover, you could raise him to E1 level 70 skill level 7 and leave it there. His talent is reduced to 4 or 6 ASPD depending on the potential, but that's really it. He is a good choice for early game, as those stages tend to have higher volumes of weaker enemies. If you're going to master the first skill, I'd recommend going all the way to mastery 3 for the SP cost reduction. In case of the second skill, one master is always nice to get a decent boost without breaking the bank. It does scale a bit better at mastery 3 compared to 1 and 2 however. His potential scaling is okay, but nothing game changing. Also, his base talent is nothing to write home about. A 20% clue research speed boost to the reception room at Elite 2 is not the worst, but there are a lot of better options. That's all. Next I will cover Indigo. Thank you for watching. I hope that you found this video useful, and if you did, like and subscribe. If you didn't, dislike and tell me why, and if you don't see the dislikes counter, you can install the return YouTube dislike extension. Follow me on Twitch where I stream Arknights. Hope to see you there during the event. See you next time and Happy New Year!